Week 6 nearly upon us. It's time to open up the Peacock and Williamson six-pack. A six-pack of picks, our 6 favorite games going into Week 6 on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers hanging with us all season. And if you're new to the program, welcome. Please consider hitting that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And we'll talk ball with you every single day. Get involved in the mailbag as well on Twitter or in the YouTube comments. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The Pittsburgh Steelers, and for those listeners and those new listeners to the show, you cover the Steelers, I cover the 49ers. We know the most about those teams, so they tend to end up in our six-packs every week just because we can have a lot to talk about earlier in the week in those games, and then we get to the rest of the games on Friday, and we got a lot of good ones here. We got another London game. We've got Philly, New York, Thursday nighter, and Seattle, Jacksonville. I think is a good barometer game too. And I put on the background 4-1 teams heat check. I think it is a heat check for the Tampa Bay Bucks, the 49ers. I think it's a heat check for, even though they're 3-2, the Seattle Seahawks, the Jacksonville Jaguars. How hot are these teams? I think it's going to be some fun games here in Week 6. I want to start with your Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a bye week, nice little bit of rest. They're favored at home against the Dillon Gabriel-led Cleveland Browns in Week 6. And the Browns traded away Joe Flacco. So it's all rookies all the time at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns this year. And we didn't talk a lot about Dillon Gabriel's first start last week overseas. What did you see from Dillon Gabriel, and what do you expect from him and this Browns team at the Steelers in Week 6, Matt?
Yeah, and you mentioned Steelers are coming off a bye. They're getting back. It looks like Highsmith, Porter, Warren, and their last game was overseas. The Browns' last game was overseas, but they don't have a bye. They instead have to go on the road to a place they have not won a regular season game since 2003. So those type of overview things don't look great for the Browns. I was pretty impressed with Gabriel, though. And Stefanski. I thought Stefanski did a really good job, which he always does, of catering to his quarterback, getting the ball out quick in sort of a Tua-like manner, efficient. When I really dug into this game, I was blown away because it was so tight end centric. Fannin and Njoku are getting almost all the targets. They're not throwing outside the numbers. Tillman's hurt. A very Judkins based offense, which it should be. I think he's super impressive. And the Browns defense is great. It's maybe the best in the league. It's the hardest to run against. They get after the passer. So I think the Browns are really going to play small ball. We're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to have quick hitting stuff, usually to tight ends, generate some after the catch stuff, make our quarterback's life a little bit easier, play great defense led by Myles Garrett, and see where the chips fall, and probably end up playing Shedeur Sanders and Watson and whoever else. We talked about that yesterday. Add the laundry list of quarterbacks they have available. I don't know if the Steelers have turned the corner or not. I'm letting my emotion get in the way a little bit because Dublin was so fun and it was their best game and coming off a bye. I don't think they're one of the best teams in the AFC by any means, but I do think they're starting to figure things out on both sides of the ball. They finally got a running game going. Rodgers is very comfortable. They're healthier than they've been, but I expect a real low scoring game. And that's how the Browns play every game. Their collective points scored and yards per game, just generated in all Browns games are very, very low at the bottom of the league. And they still make a lot of mistakes with penalties and things like that too. That doesn't help themselves. And their red zone defense is bad, and they're not great against the short passing game, which is all the Steelers do. That being said, I think it's going to be a really close game, and I'm taking the points.
6.5 is the line right now that the Steelers are favored. And of course, you have to pick the Steelers because, like you said, what was it, 2003?
They won one postseason game here, but they have not won a regular season game since 2003. And the history is such a big brother, little brother thing. It's crazy.
But it could be an ugly contest, still be a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the amount of points, familiar division foes, I would still pick I want to pick Pittsburgh to win by a touchdown.
Yeah.
And if it was 7, it would be a lot easier. 6.5, though, I agree with you, man. I think we got to do it. And look, Matt, we're turning it around. We didn't start the season well with our picks, but we are turning it around.
We are.
I think you hit 70% of your picks last week, so we're looking much better here. And part of that is being smart, taking the points here in a game that could be a little bit of an ugly fest, I think.
I mean, the over-under is super low, and it's a big spread. I mean, like that almost always says take the points. I mean, this game screams 13-9 to me, which is just up Tomlin's alley too. I mean, he'll just punt and they'll make a big play. Watt will get a strip sack late in the game, and Boz will hit a field goal to win it. And I mean, this is how they operate. And I think this game screams that in a very big way. And you should see the stats I put together with this one, though. I mean, there's so many crazy Steeler, Browns trends, and one of them is really interesting to me. It just sums up the Browns of late. Is since they hired their defensive coordinator, why do I forget his name off the top of my head? But he's really good. The defensive coordinator,
Schwartz.
Yeah, Jim Schwartz. He's excellent. That was the 2023 season. So they have been number 1 in defensive EPA since the day they hired him. They've been number 32 in offensive EPA since the day they hired him. Like, I was joking on the radio, like, I'd love to have a beer with Myles Garrett and Schwartz, being like, so what do you guys think of your situation? You guys doing your job.
Well, yeah, you can see why Myles Garrett was like, I've never played for these guys again.
I'm the best player in the league, and we have the best defense since this dude arrived, and we don't win anything.
And as we know, money talks, and so he's still there.
He's playing phenomenal.
Taking the points. We're both taking the points here.
Yes.
Now. We got the Denver Broncos on the road, but so are the Jets because this game's in London, and this is another 6.5 point line. The Denver Broncos favored by 6.5 over the New York Jets. This is one where I think I do want to give up the points and still take the Denver Broncos because defensively, I think they can do a number on the Jets, and the Jets defense has been bad, as we pointed out yesterday. I just don't like what's going on with the Jets, and I like what's going on with the Denver Broncos. As simple as that. Can they win by a touchdown? I think they can.
I do too. I feel exactly the same way. I have a lot of faith in one organization. I've got 0 in the other. And it even compounds things when you go overseas and makes things weird. And Sean Payton has been around the block, and a head coach that's coached 5 games as the head coach pretty poorly has not, and I'll take Knicks over Fields. I'll take the Broncos defense all day long. And I saw that this opened at 7.5. That might have changed my tune, but under 7, oh yeah.
I like it. I like it as well. And the Denver Broncos are really starting to hum. And that's a theme here with a lot of the games we picked and a lot of the teams we picked in this 6-pack, including the Denver Broncos, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though the Seattle Seahawks lost to the Bucs. I mean, those two teams look like they were both really firing last week. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming off on Monday nighter against the Chiefs. I mean, a lot of these teams really starting to hum, and that's why I think it's a heat check for a lot of these teams. And I think we do see that heat come out of London with the Denver Broncos in a big win against the New York Jets.
Yep, I feel the same way.
All right, let's talk San Francisco traveling to Tampa, battle of 4-1s. We've got the opposite going on in Green Bay with the Flacco-led Cincinnati Bengals and our huge underdogs at the Packers, Seattle, Jacksonville, and we'll talk Thursday nighter with the Eagles and Giants as well next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Mazda, and Mazda moving the game forward. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. Footwork, breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, right? And so does Mazda. Mazda brings this same attention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the craftsmanship, whether it's accents, whether it's the seats, whether it is the infotainment system. It all just makes sense, and it all feels so good when you sit in a Mazda. And even better than that is how it drives. Smooth handling, intuitive controls. It makes everyday drives feel like anything but with Mazda. And how about all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like the players on the field, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. I just went to a concert last night and got my ticket on Game Time. Last minute, my buddy's like, hey, band's playing in Berkeley. You want to go? I was like, you know what? Berkeley's real close to where I am. Let's go check Game Time. If they've got a ticket, I'm going to go. And guess what? I got a last minute ticket for a phenomenal deal. It was a no-brainer for me. So, go see some bands play. And whether it's music, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, you name it, you can find those tickets at Game Time, and of course, NFL football as well. And that's why I use Game Time, because the app gives you the advantage, gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Matt, we are looking ahead to the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, looking at the FanDuel odds. And by the way, all of the odds here when we break down games are presented by FanDuel. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home favored by 3 points against the 4-1 San Francisco 49ers. Baker Mayfield, the first quarter MVP of the NFL. How about this? I got some stats for you on Baker Mayfield. Playing right now. Huge win, 38-35 win for the Bucs against the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to talk about momentarily. Baker Mayfield, since the beginning of last season, 2024, so all of 2024 and the first 5 weeks of 2025, Baker Mayfield stands alone as the only quarterback with 500 completions, 5,000 passing yards, 50-plus touchdown passes. And right now on this season, Baker Mayfield completing 112 of 172 passes for 1,283 passing yards, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception, 104.4 passer rating, 4-1 record. All of the 4 wins, fourth quarter comebacks, by the way, for Baker Mayfield too. So,
wow,
phenomenal season for Baker Mayfield right now, and developing another young superstar wide receiver potentially to go with, hopefully getting Mike Evans back, and then Chris Godwin. So, a fun football team. They can be had though in the air as well, which makes these Tampa Bay Buccaneers games so fun. But with the 49ers, with an injured receiver core and a backup quarterback, presumably playing again here for him, albeit a good backup, can that Niners offense take advantage of the Bucs on the back end?
I'm sure you have some questions about that. I have some questions about that. I don't love their ability just to run the ball, San Francisco, and control this game on the road. I think it's obviously a very far road trip and a tough one. I think Tampa fans will be wound up, and it is a later start. That's good for San Francisco. I'm just really high on Tampa. I don't have a lot bad to say about the Niners minus the injury situation, but I think Tampa is hot as could be right now, and I thought this should be like a 4.5, 5-point line.
I'm taking Tampa as well.
Are you?
If you could get it at 2.5, even better. But 3 points, and I think it's a fair line. Tampa should be favored in this football game. The 49ers last week had an awesome win, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the Browns and the Steelers a little bit. They're familiar foes, and that was an ugly, grinded out game, and that's in the 49ers' favor a little bit more. Short week. The opponent was also playing on a short week, which can level the playing field a little bit. Even though the 49ers have had an extra couple of days to lick their wounds, they're still 2 injured across the board. No Kittle. it's not a great situation. And I think the biggest loss still is the lack of pass rush to get after Baker Mayfield with no.
That what worries me.
Nick Bosa. And so that's where I think this is a different scenario than it was last week for the 49ers, who had a nice upset win over the Rams, traveling to the East Coast. They changed it from the 10 a.m. Pacific time to the 1:25 start, which helps.
It's good for you guys. Yeah.
Country trip, one of the longest trips you can make. And I do think I would give up the 3 points and take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should be favored in this football game. But the 49ers have proven that they're going to be competitive every single week. So we'll see if that continues, or if those injuries, it's just at some point it might be too much. It hasn't been too much except for one game for the 49ers so far. Can they still continue to overcome it? I'm going to put my money on the Bucs in this one.
Yeah, if we were to tier the NFC, I would have the Niners in tier 2. The Bucs might either be the best of tier 2 or in tier 1.
Yeah, and I answered this question on Locked On 49ers this week, is like rank the 4-1 teams. Well, the 49ers have to be last of the 4-1 teams. You just have to be honest.
I think so too. Yeah,
with who they're throwing out there on the field right now and stuff, and they haven't really gotten they have no rushing touchdowns this year. And
wow, McCaffrey scores every week, I thought.
As a receiver, not as a runner.
Yeah.
Well, they're not running the ball well. They're like 3.2, 3.3 yards per carry on the season. The Bucs are good against the run. But pass on defense. So can the Niners win a shootout type of game?
I doubt
the Bucs there. The Bucs, yeah.
Yep.
We've got just a massive line here with the Green Bay Packers, who are hosting the Joe Flacco-led Cincinnati Bengals. 14.5 points.
Ooh, I was hoping to be under. I was hoping to be under like 14.5 is a lot.
Like 9.5 or something. 14.5 is a lot. Over 2 touchdowns.
I think the Packers slaughter them.
Yeah.
But that's such a big number. And it's so fresh on my mind that Chase in particular kind of almost backdoor covered last week, in a game that they were totally out of. Is Flacco enough to kind of just jolt them a little bit, give them a little bit more gusto and maybe even just getting the right plays at the line of scrimmage and know where to go with the football and just be a veteran, wise old man at this point to get some production. And, I guess I have to take the points, but boy,
such a quick turnaround for Joe Flacco, who's expected to start, after being traded for on Tuesday to start Sunday. That's a tough ask. So I see why it's such a big line. And I do think the Packers are a top tier team in the NFL, even though they're just behind some other teams record wise at 2-1-1 they are this year. And one thing the Packers haven't been good at this year is putting teams away. They should have put the Cowboys away and ended up letting them stick around, and it goes into overtime. They end up tying that football game. And I do think that Flacco, we talked about the fantasy aspect of, he can chuck it out there and get your fantasy team some points for Jamar Chase. And, can they backdoor cover on this one, even if they are getting beat up pretty bad in the first half of the game? So it's just a
lean towards yes.
I got to take the points. We're agreeing on all these games so far this week, but that's okay. I'm with you on this one.
Chase and Higgins versus prevent late in the game when they're down 17.
Yeah, and
probably ends up in a touchdown, and then you're mad that you gave up 14.5 points.
Right. And the Packers can run them out of town and still only win by 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah. I mean, Parsons and Love and those guys might not even be playing the last 8 minutes of the game.
It also might be 41-3.
It might, and Flacco might get sacked 7 times and doesn't come back in the game in the third quarter. You're right. That could happen too.
Yeah. Next, we've got another good one. The Seattle Seahawks at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then an NFC East affair. Philly at New York on Thursday night. Next. This episode brought to you by America's #1 sports book, and that is FanDuel. And with the NFL season rolling along into week 6, FanDuel has a very special offer that you do not want to miss. And I don't know how long this offer is going to stick around. Talking about $300 in bonus bets. And all you got to do is win your first $5 bet at FanDuel. That's right. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Weekly lines, player props, same game parlays, build your own parlays. And you can even follow along live the lines during games and bet in games live while games are happening. NHL starting up, NBA's coming. You got the Major League Baseball playoffs and tons more on FanDuel to get involved, and it just makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Some fun games this week. We're going to hit some more Friday when we make the rest of our picks, including the Monday Nighters. But let's go to Jacksonville, where the red-hot Jacksonville Jaguars are at 4-1, favored by 1.5 points against the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm big on the Seattle Seahawks. One thing that held the Seahawks back against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week was not having two of their best players in the secondary, which is not good against the Baker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now in Witherspoon and Love, who are two very good players, maybe the two best players on that defense. So that's tough for a very good defense in Seattle. Jacksonville's a weird team because they're playing well and they're winning games, but they're also doing it in a way where they're almost losing all the games too. Like they could have lost. Like,
yes, I'm not sure they were the better team that game.
They almost let the Chiefs come down and win the game last week, and they ended up winning. They didn't make the Chiefs, use their timeouts. 49ers game could have gone either way with the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a tough one. And it's almost like a pick 'em, and the line kind of says that. 1.5 for the Jags. I don't know if that changes for you, that you get a 1 point, right? But I'm probably just going to take the team I like the best here. I'm interested to hear which team you like the best between the Seahawks and the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 6.
I think we both like Seattle better, and they're going to pick the same team again. But, I mean, brutal road trip. That's a lot of miles to fly from Seattle to Jacksonville for a 1 o'clock start. And maybe even like heat is still a factor in October. I mean, it's warm here in Pittsburgh today. I mean, could that favor Jacksonville? To me, this comes down exactly what you said, though. Like, I think one team is noticeably better than the other, and that's Seattle. And I would be shocked if their defense is as poor as it was last week. I mean, it's just a good group that I trust. And this is terrible to say, but Jacksonville is not exactly the most trustworthy, stable organization. And that does not look like a 5-1 team to me. I can't believe that the Jags will be 5-1. I think they lose and kind of get slapped down a little bit. And maybe they're smelling themselves a little bit today too, saying, oh, we're better than we are,
A great note, by the way. Pro Football Focus had Travis Hunter graded as one of the top offensive and defensive players of the week.
Really?
This week. Yeah. So split in time. You haven't, I guess the impact is there more than you kind of see and feel during those Jacksonville Jaguars, with him splitting time on both sides of the football. He doesn't change the line for me or the pick here for me. But I just want to, double checking on the injuries as we sit here, midweek, not quite ready for Sunday. The hope is, according to Seahawks coach Mike McDonald, that Devin Witherspoon, DeMarcus Lawrence will be practicing midweek, and that they will get Julian Love back on the practice field as well later in the week, which is huge for this. Derek Hall, week to week, not going on IR, so they're hoping to be much more healthy in the secondary this week than they were last week against the Bucs. And so that, to me, makes me want to take that 1.5.
Witherspoon's so important.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And Love, too, is one of the more underrated players around the league.
Blue guy.
And Worry got a little run, too, with Love out last week, and a developing player there with a ton of talent. I'm going to go Seattle and take the 1.5 points.
Have we differed on any yet? I'm not sure.
We have 5 for 5, the exact same here, Matt.
Okay.
Hopefully that means we're smart and not dummies.
Yeah, we're 5-0.
Let's finish it up with the Thursday nighter. You got the Philadelphia Eagles with some inner turmoil. Eagles are a little bit weird right now with the A.J. Brown stuff, and they're actually – it feels like they're running the ball okay because they haven't needed to throw a lot, but Saquon Barkley's only at about 3.3 yards per carry right now, but it hasn't felt like –
barely ran it last week.
Yeah, and then they went away from the run last week. But the Giants aren't the type of team to take advantage of that, I don't think. You got a rookie quarterback on the other side in Jackson Dart who looked okay for his first start, not as good last week. And those Eagles on the road are favored by 7.5.
So part of me thinks that the proud Super Bowl champs on a standalone game just wipe the floor with a division opponent. 40-0. You know what I mean? Just one of those games. But part of me thinks there's some things wrong in Eagle Land, and the Giants front is hard to play against, and it's a short week on the road. There was not many Thursday night scenarios where I'm going to take the road team giving more than a touchdown. So I'm taking the points, but I don't feel good about it at all because I think the Giants might get their doors blown off.
Well, let's crack it open. We're 6 for 6, Matt. We're
really
making the same picks here. I hope that's a good sign, but 7.5.
This is my least favorite pick we made today, though.
The Eagles can absolutely go to New York and win by, more than 7.5 points. But again, like 7.5, that's a lot. Familiar opponents, division opponents, short week. I just think that, you bet on a game being close and a little bit ugly in some of these situations. And the New York Giants front has finally started to look a little bit more like the front we expected to see. You didn't see it right away to start the season. They're harassing opposing teams up front, and Philly already, not running the ball quite as well as you thought, even though I don't think it's been a problem necessarily either. I think some of that is, they're just kind of closing out games. And so I'm going to take the Giants and take those 7.5 points. Yeah.
Part of me just wants to switch to be different because I really don't have a strong feeling about this game. This was a coin flipper to me, but
you have a chance. Do you want to do it?
Nah, I'm gonna stick with my guns. Stick with my guns. If it was 7 or under, yeah, but that half is enough for me in a division game, short week, at home dog.
We saw it last week with the 49ers. Not only was it much less than 8.5 points, the road team actually won that football game, which was surprising. Yeah. You just never know with the division opponents, and I think it's a smart bet. It might not be the right bet, but I think we're betting smarter now after 5 weeks in the NFL season, Matt.
You said that earlier, and I think a big thing why our records, and I know mine, has turned around is because I'm starting to take points. I think this league is less predictable than we think, so give me points.
You know what it is? It's chaos.
And that's exactly what they want.
It's always the way it's going to be. All right. Let us know what you think at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube. Get involved in next week's mailbag, and we'll preview the rest of week 6 on Friday's episode. Talk to you then right here, Peacock and Williamson.